California. Land of sunshine, beaches, and Hollywood dreams. Yet behind this golden facade lurks a dark history. This is a land marked by serial killers. Their crimes are etched into the state's soul. Their tales are chilling. They are a stark reminder of the human capacity for evil. California's history is intertwined with infamous names like Richard Ramirez, Lonnie Franklin Jr., and Rodney Alcala. Each killer brought their own brand of terror. They preyed on the innocent. Their motives varied: power, control, sadistic pleasure. But the result was the same: shattered lives and communities living in fear. The sheer number of serial killers linked to California is startling. Some experts point to the state's size and transient population. Others suggest the allure of Hollywood and its dark side. Whatever the reasons, the impact is undeniable. These killers left a stain on California's history. Their stories continue to fascinate and horrify. These tales are not for the faint of heart. They are grim journeys into the darkest corners of the human psyche. But they offer a glimpse into the minds of monsters. They serve as a reminder: evil can lurk anywhere, even in the land of sunshine and dreams. Richard Ramirez, a name that still sends shivers down the spines of Californians. From 1984 to 1985, he terrorized Los Angeles. He earned the moniker Night Stalker. He broke into homes, leaving a trail of blood and fear in his wake. Ramirez was a Satanist. He reveled in brutality. His crimes were random. His victims varied: men, women, children. He showed no mercy. His calling card? An inverted pentagram, sometimes carved into his victim's flesh. The city was gripped by fear. People were afraid to sleep in their own homes. The police were baffled. Ramirez was elusive. He moved through the city like a phantom. Every night held the possibility of another attack. His reign of terror finally ended in 1985, when citizens apprehended Ramirez. He was beaten and held until the police arrived. His trial was a media spectacle. He was convicted on 43 charges, including murder, sexual assault, and burglary. He was sentenced to death. He died in prison in 2013, but his legacy of fear lives on. Lonnie Franklin Jr. earned a chilling nickname, the Grim Sleeper. He terrorized South Central Los Angeles for over 2 decades. His victims were primarily African American women. He preyed on the vulnerable, the forgotten. Franklin's crimes were brutal. He raped and strangled his victims. He dumped their bodies in alleys and trash bins. His reign of terror seemed to go dormant for periods. Hence the nickname Grim Sleeper. This only added to the mystery and fear. For years, Franklin eluded capture. Police were stumped. The community was desperate for answers. Fear hung heavy in the air. Mothers kept their daughters close. The streets felt unsafe. Finally, in 2010, a DNA breakthrough led to Franklin's arrest. It was a familial DNA match. His son had been arrested. This linked him to the crimes. His trial was long and harrowing. He was found guilty of 10 murders. He was sentenced to death. Franklin's capture brought closure, but the scars of his crimes remain. Rodney Alcala. He was charming. He was handsome. He was intelligent. He was also a monster. He was dubbed the dating game killer after appearing on the popular TV show in 1978. This was during his killing spree. Alcala was a photographer. He lured women with his camera. He promised them modeling shots. He used this ruse to gain their trust. Then he would unleash his sadistic nature. He tortured, raped, and murdered his victims. Alcala's crimes spanned several states. He left a trail of bodies across California. He was finally caught in 1979. He was convicted of a murder in California. However, during his time in prison, authorities discovered a collection of photographs, hundreds of women and girls. Many remained unidentified. The true extent of Alcala's crimes is unknown. He was linked to other murders through DNA evidence. He was convicted of 5 murders in California. He received the death penalty. He died in prison in 2021. Alcala's case is a chilling reminder. Evil can lurk beneath a charming facade. Section 5. Freeway Killer. William Bonin's reign of terror along California's roads was marked by unimaginable cruelty. Known as the Freeway Killer, William Bonin preyed on young men and boys in Southern California, picking up hitchhikers and luring them into his van. From 1979 to 1980, he cruised California's freeways, searching for vulnerable victims to torture, rape, and murder, often dumping their bodies along the roadside. The freeway became a hunting ground, and fear gripped the region. Parents warned their children about the dangers of hitchhiking, and the police were under immense pressure to catch the killer. Bonin was eventually apprehended in 1980, caught in the act of assaulting a teenage boy in his van. His trial exposed the horrific extent of his crimes, leading to his conviction of 14 murders and a sentence to death. Executed in 1996, Bonin's case cast a long shadow over California's freeways, serving as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk on the open road. Section 6. The co-ed butcher, Edmund Kemper, a descent into madness. Edmund Kemper, a name synonymous with brutality, was a giant of a man, towering over 6 feet 9 inches. But his physical stature hid a deeply disturbed mind. Known as the co-ed butcher, he targeted female college students in Santa Cruz, California. Kemper's crimes, fueled by a deep-seated hatred of women, began in the early 1970s. He picked up hitchhiking students, lured them to secluded areas, and then tortured, raped, and murdered them. He often dismembered his victims, keeping trophies of his horrific acts. Kemper's crimes shocked the community. He was a known figure in town, considered harmless, which made his crimes even more disturbing. The fear was palpable. Students were afraid to walk alone, and the college campus felt like a hunting ground. Kemper's reign of terror ended in a shocking twist when he turned himself in and confessed his crimes to his mother. His trial was a gruesome affair. He was convicted of 8 murders and sentenced to life in prison. Kemper's case is a chilling example of how mental illness, coupled with rage, can lead to monstrous acts. Section 7. The Toolbox Killers. Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris's Twisted Fantasies. Lawrence Bittaker and Roy Norris, a duo of depravity, became known as the Toolbox Killers. Their crimes were fueled by sadistic fantasies and terrorized Southern California in 1979. Their modus operandi was chilling. They drove a van, which they dubbed Murder Mac, used it to kidnap teenage girls, took their victims to a secluded canyon, tortured them using tools, hence their nickname, and recorded their horrific acts. The details of their crimes are too gruesome to recount. They reveled in inflicting pain and documented their torture sessions. Their tapes capture the screams of their victims, testaments to their inhumanity. Their reign of terror was short but brutal, murdering 5 young girls in a span of 5 months. Their capture brought a collective sigh of relief. They were caught after one of their victims escaped. They were tried and convicted. Bittaker received the death penalty. Norris received 45 years to life in prison. Their case remains one of the most disturbing in California's criminal history. The Zodiac Killer, a name that evokes mystery and fear. He haunted Northern California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. His identity remains a mystery to this day. This killer taunted the police. He sent coded messages to newspapers. He claimed responsibility for a string of murders. He threatened more violence. He was a master manipulator. He craved notoriety. The Zodiac's crimes were brutal. He targeted couples in secluded areas. He shot them in cold blood. His motives remain unclear. He seemed to enjoy the terror he inflicted. He left behind few clues. The case baffled investigators. They chased dead ends. They deciphered some of his codes, but his identity remained elusive. The Zodiac became a legend. His case is still open. He remains a chilling reminder. Some mysteries may never be solved. The Golden State Killer, a name that terrorized California for over a decade. From the 1970s to the 1980s, he committed a spree of rapes and murders. He was a phantom. He moved silently, He struck with chilling precision. His crimes were marked by meticulous planning. He stalked his victims. He learned their routines. He broke into their homes. He tied them up. He threatened them. He raped and sometimes murdered them. His crimes escalated over time. He became more brazen, more violent. For years, the Golden State Killer eluded capture. He left a trail of shattered lives. He instilled fear in communities across the state. The case went cold, but it never faded from memory. Then, in 2018, a DNA breakthrough. Investigators used genealogy websites. They matched DNA from crime scenes to a distant relative of Joseph James D'Angelo. He was a former police officer. He was arrested. The news sent shockwaves across California. This elusive killer was finally caught. Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono, cousins, partners in crime. They became known as the Hillside Stranglers. They terrorized Los Angeles in the late 1970s. Their crimes were marked by depravity and cruelty. Their victims were women and girls. They ranged in age from 12 to 28. They kidnapped them. They took them to Buono's home in the hills above Glendale. They tortured, raped, and strangled them. Their modus operandi was chilling. They posed as undercover police officers. They used fake badges. They lured victims into their car. They terrorized Los Angeles for months. The city was on edge. Parents feared for their daughters. Their reign of terror ended when Bianchi moved to Washington State. He was arrested for the murders of 2 college students. He confessed to his crimes in Los Angeles. He implicated Buono. They were tried separately. Bianchi received life in prison. Buono received the death penalty. He died in prison in 2002. Their case remains a chilling reminder of the darkness that can exist within families. California, a land of beauty, a land of dreams, but also a land marked by darkness. The stories of these serial killers are chilling. They are hard to comprehend. They force us to confront the dark side of human nature. The impact of these crimes is long-lasting. Victims' families are left with unimaginable grief. Communities live with the scars of fear. The stories of these killers serve as a reminder. Evil can lurk anywhere. It can take many forms. These cases have helped to advance criminal justice. Forensic science has evolved. Investigative techniques have improved, but the fight against evil is ongoing. New threats emerge. The battle for safety and justice continues. These stories are not just about the killers. They are about the victims. They are about the resilience of the human spirit. They are about the communities that come together in the face of tragedy. They are a testament to the enduring hope for a safer world, a world free from the shadow of evil.